page headline, man. Aren't you
Welcome
going to
to
get
the
us
Brisco and
rolling there, Don,
Bradshaw.
or what?
Be quiet, Mr. Briscoe. We're on live on
Okay.
air. I can't edit this. Or I could, but I'm not going to.
Yeah.
You don't know how you're
I'm
thinking.
Bradshaw. That is your Oklahoma native, your Chickasaw native, all that crap. He's from somewhere up north of the Red River. I don't know where it is. We need a wall to keep him out. And we got the two-time WWE Tag Team Champion, member of the Bullet Club, member of Aces and Eight. Most importantly, he's our buddy, Mr. Doc Luke Gallows. Luke, welcome to the show.
Man, thanks for having me. Two of my favorites on here. I've been waiting to do this one. You know, a lot of times you get asked to do a podcast and it's a big ass eye roll. This was not. I'm glad to be here.
Well, thank you, brother. We appreciate it.
Yes,
And
sir.
it's a pleasure to have you on. I know we've chased you all over the damn world. We had your partner on a couple of weeks ago, and I hope you haven't listened to it because he didn't put you over very strong.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm sure that he didn't. I'm sure it was his normal bullshit he was spewing, but I still love him, so it's okay.
Well, it's your opportunity now, and I know you'll rise above the hate there. So, so welcome aboard, man. It's great to have you on there, Luke. You know, after chasing you down, you just got back from France, a tour over there. You guys are busier than hell. Kind of fill us in on what you're up to nowadays.
Man, our 90 days ended on May the 8th, May the 9th. We went out to California, worked for New Japan Pro Wrestling, jumped straight on a flight to Toronto. We did Maple Leaf Pro for Scott D'Amore, JBL's buddy up there in Canada. You know that one, I'm sure. And then we've been rolling every single week, every single weekend. A lot of double shots, triple shots. We love it. It's been fun. You know, Carl and I, fortunately, went from contract to contract to contract to contract, about 5 of them in a row. And we both kind of said we wanted to step back and take our time and figure out what was best for us on this one. So we've been enjoying getting out in the world a little bit. John came down for a show that I run in Georgia. We've been fortunate enough to get a Roku deal down there. So we're starting television there. In August, it'll be available in all 50 states, all of Canada, and we got about 32 countries. They're tying in with Comcast up in Nashville and in Atlanta, so excited about that. And there's just a lot of moving parts right now, man. So it's been really good. It's been good to be back out in the wild, as we like to say.
Yeah,
I had a great time down at your show. You even found a leprechaun for me to hit with a trash can. That was a selling point.
That was the highlight of the night, as you can imagine.
Isn't that against the law in most states, hitting leprechauns with trash cans?
It's okay in South Georgia.
Georgia, not only it's not against the law, they recommend doing it.
They sure do.
Yeah.
Anytime you want to fire something at a leprechaun, just fire it at them. It's like a varmint in Texas. You can just like shoot a varmint anytime, in or out of season. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Leprechauns are like varmints.
So are you saying you'll shoot him next time?
I might.
You might, huh?
Depends on which one we book, right?
That's right. That's
Depends on the payoff, man.
This past weekend, I almost got short sleeve Samson. I just missed him.
He's got a head on him. That's a good target.
Yes, he does. I saw that head coming out the door, and I threw it at him. He got the door closed just in time. Hornswoggle's not fast like that, though. I get him every time.
Yeah, he's a little less athletic.
He's slow and not very bright.
Yeah, well, it's slow. I know that. He's slow mentally, too, from what you're telling me. But, Luke, man, back to you, brother. It's great to have you on here. Tell us a little bit about Luke Gallows growing up. Where, Maryland? You're an athlete, or what was your story growing up? And how did you get involved in the great sport of professional wrestling?
Man, I grew up in Western Maryland, a little town in the Appalachians called Cumberland. It was 1 mile from the West Virginia border and 1 mile to the Pennsylvania border.
Well, you're on the right side of that West Virginia border.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't stay that way. I started wrestling when I was about 8 years old, and I was immediately in love with it. Knew that I had to do it, figure out a way to do it. I played football all the way up. I was an all-state center, and I was getting heavily recruited, but I graduated at 17 years old, and I was a clip too slow for Division I. So my dad and my coaches were pushing me to go to prep school, but I knew that would delay my wrestling journey. So I took a Division II scholarship to a school called Fairmont State in West Virginia. As soon as I got in town, I asked where the powerlifting gym was. It was called Slamic's Gym. And I signed up with Mr. Slamic, and I said, do any professional wrestlers work out here? I didn't know how to find where pro wrestlers work. And he told me there was a guy named Luscious Lance, and he'd be in here Thursday night deadlifting. So I was there Thursday night waiting on Luscious Lance, and he was a 40-something-year-old pharmaceutical representative with a wrestling it, going through a divorce, and he wanted a buddy, so he got 17-year-old me, and I started carrying the bag.
Hey, wait a minute now. A wrestler that's a pharmaceutical representative, he had to be very popular.
Oh, he had to know his stuff too,
Especially
man.
in that time period, he was the most popular.
I bet he was.
Yeah.
He was not short on friends, I promise you that.
Yeah. There was a line at his rack.
That's how it started, and I started helping setting the ring up, and about the second night they threw me in the battle royal, and I mean after that,
Wow.
Yeah. Training and learning on the fly and up and down the East Coast, and then I started looking different than all the other West Virginia offensive linemen. I had a suntan, shaved leg. I had hair at the time, and it was bleach blonde. They knew something was up, but I was keeping my wrestling a secret. So when I'd wrestle locally, I wore a hood as the new Millennium Assassin.
Wait a minute, you wore a hood, you still bleach blonde your hair?
Oh, yeah.
You went all the way, Luke. You went all the way.
I put a big piece of tape over my one tattoo, and I was working at Battle Royal one night right outside of Fairmont in this little mall, and I looked out there, and in the smattering of people was the head coach of the team. And I said, and I told one of the boys to throw me over the top rope. I ran to the back because I knew I wasn't getting paid, and I jumped in my little car and went back to the football house. And I had a message on my answering machine to be in the office at 7:00 in the morning. And I got in there, and they looked at me, and they go, "You want to be Dusty Rhodes or contribute to this football team?" And I said, "I want to be Dusty Rhodes." I quit. I had a hell of a week until I had to call my dad and tell him the free school was over, and I was going to go on the road as a pro wrestler. And at that point, the most I'd made was $20. So it was a life adjustment. So I went home and got a job and enrolled in community college and started wrestling. And then I did that for the next 3 years. I kept sending my stuff to WWE, even though I was greener than goose shit. And I got called for the $1 Million Tough Enough out in Los Angeles. And I went out there. And, man, I did great the first day. I did so good on the course, and I cut a pretty good promo. I thought I was young. I was like, these guys are into me. I was full of my own shit. And then the second day, Bill DeMott, who I ended up being very close with, he was running this obstacle course, and I'm doing this army crawl, and I'm blown up. My tongue's hanging out of my mouth, and the drawstring in my shorts broke, which is about the worst thing that could happen when you're shirtless trying to crawl through sand with 6 inches of shit above you that you're not allowed to touch. So my shorts kept coming down further and further and further. And I said, "Do not touch your shorts again or you're disqualified." So if you ever go back, which I'm sure you won't, and watch the bloopers from that Tough Enough, there's a 20-year-old me with nothing but his bare white ass cheeks and his little dicky do going straight down into the sand as I do my finish the obstacle course. So I didn't get picked for that. I went home and I kept setting my matches every weekend, and then I got a call when they opened Deep South Wrestling in Georgia, and I got signed and went up there with the first group of guys there, Bill DeMott, Jody Hamilton, later Dave Taylor.
Right.
That was definitely finishing school because I was the youngest, greenest guy when I got there, and I was there from, the day it opened to the day it closed, and started getting called up and doing my array of different gimmicks from there.
Yeah. Well, wait a minute. What you're telling me, it goes completely against my research that I've been doing. And I know, as John and I always say, if we saw something on the internet, it's got to be true because it's on the internet. So Hulk Hogan broke you into business is what the internet said. Where's that rumor come from?
Who broke me into business?
I saw where Hulk Hogan on Wikipedia, I think it is. The trainer said Hulk Hogan.
No, I never met Hulk till I went to TNA, man.
Wow.
I'd never met him until that point. He was great.
Oh, the internet is not always true.
The internet's not always right.
You just broke my bubble, man. Oh, man.
hey, Jerry, you had Hulk Hogan, Luscious Lance.
Yeah, I mean, it's
really. Same.
Same
Luscious
thing.
Lance. I've never heard of Luscious Lance. Maybe he's a wonderful. Did he ever?
What you gonna do, brother?
I want to get some gimmicks.
Lance Malinowski
and Hogan's not.
yeah, that's right. Good one.
We're in trouble now.
Yeah. So did Luscious Lance ever work anywhere of note, or did you know?
He sure as hell did not. He did.
He watched it on TV, John. That's how he was.
Yeah, he probably would have approached you in the wrong fashion in a bar. Luscious Lance was a good guy. He didn't really know etiquette and the way things worked. I figured out pretty quickly. But hey, he was my first step in, so I can't bury him.
Hey, tell me about your coach again. What a dick! So I mean, you're not doing anything wrong. It's your own free time. Instead of saying,
And wait a minute, John, and Luke, I gotta tell you, I admire you for your honesty because my partner there got called in about wrestling a bear, and he lied. He lied to us.
I did.
You told the truth.
I did. I was at a Division II college just like you.
Yeah.
Joined a local hardcore lifting gym that was Ken Lane, who was broke our city's record for a short time.
Don't Luscious Lane, no.
Not Luscious Lane. And I got called into the office, the head of the athletic director, because he was an asshole. And pulled me out of school because I wrestled a bear, and I lied.
And they had pictures.
Yeah, they had pictures of it.
I got caught because one of the other O-linemen who I confided in, he would ride with me down to the southern West Virginia border and to these little shows because he was into it. And we had a pact that he would never tell on me. And of course he told him, got around. And then what happened when the coach who recruited me loved me, but he ended up after my first year, he got caught with a cheerleader and then was sent off to Northern to do the rest of his time.
Kind of like that guy at BYU now. He had premarital sex and he got put on the suspension from a football team.
Yeah. So they hired this local high school coach, and he hated all of us that were on any kind of money to play ball there that weren't his recruits. So I was on the shit list anyway. And then of course the wrestling made it worse, and you're never gonna make it, fuck you, blah 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 blah. So that was all the more motivation when somebody tells you shit like that. So I've always buried him. So Rusty Elliott, if you're watching this, fuck you.
I love it. I walked in late one time. I had a poetry class I had to take poetry at like Tuesday night, and so something came out of my knee. Some staples came out. I had to get my knee sewed up, just kind of some stitches. So I walk in late to poetry class in college. I've already been All-American 1 year. All I want to do is
that don't sound right. Poetry class was.
I was in poetry. I was in poetry class. I hated it. I hated every second of that class. And that prick met me at the door and says, "You got to decide between football and poetry." And I just
wow.
Brother, that's the best decision I've ever made. Thank you. You can take your poetry and you can shove it up your ass. Yeah. So I quit. Yeah.
Good for you.
It's like you look back on it now and you go, I'm so glad I walked out.
I know.
Sometimes it's just pleasant.
It reminds me of my wife now and I, when people walk up to us and they go, "Oh man, I'm getting a divorce," we both say, "Well, congratulations."
Right. So you go down to Deep South. What a great roster of coaches you got there. I mean, those guys are world class.
They're world class. And over the years, all these guys were saying it just, it was too hard and we were abused and we were this.
Oh, yeah.
And, I've never had an ounce of respect for hearing that, the 500 squats a day. I was a wrestling fan. I was a mark, and I knew that was Japanese style training. You take a shit ton of bumps. You do a shit ton of cardio. I was in the best shape of my life when I was there training. I've never been in that good a shape as I was then. And I appreciated it because I knew as a young green guy that I needed it, and that's what you were supposed to do. I almost ended up in Puerto Rico because I was sending my tapes everywhere, but Bushwhacker Luke called me a week later than I had already signed the deal and gone down to Deep South. But man, who knows what would have happened if it would have went the other way. And I would have, so I've always been thankful for it and thankful to those guys for that. I learned a ton from Jody Hamilton.
Tell us, I was going to get to that. You had some great staff, as John said, but Jody Hamilton, to me, Jody was one of my mentors when I first broke into business. Just really getting a rub with him and sitting there and listening to Jody's philosophy and the way he spoke to you and the way he explained things. Describe Jody Hamilton a little bit to the fans out there who don't know him.
Man, Jody's in his 70s by the time he got us down there. So a lot of the physical training stuff was on Bill, especially out of the gate before there were any other trainers down there. Eventually we had Dr. Tom Pritchard. And as I said, Dave Taylor was there for a long time too. But I got the most out of Jody because I like to sit and listen to him. Mm-hmm. So I would bring Jody whatever cigar that I could afford and sit there with practice and his big, King Ranch F250, and he'd smoke.
And now tell us about his shorts that he wore, because we had who was it, John? One of them.
Heath Slater.
Heath Slater. One
of the best stories ever, where Jody's nuts fall out.
Jody was a champion at chewing your ass, So Friday'd be our only easy day because it was hard as fucking Deep South. But Thursday night we'd do TV. We'd all go out and get hammered, have a hell of a time in a little town, get heat with all the locals, try to steal their girls, whatever. And then we'd roll in there Friday morning. We'd do tape study. And if we didn't get in trouble, we'd get to go home. So that was the best day of the week. Well, we'd had a pretty good TV. And Jody had like the old school, like the Zubaz style pants on. And Jody didn't like to wear underwear. And he's got a hole in these pants. And I'm sure Heath told you, but I mean, he's also had horse balls. So he's sitting there, and I think he was yelling at Ray.
The most famous nuts in the business.
I think he was yelling at Ray Gordy because he had this thing with Gordy, and I don't know if it was a thing with the birds from back in the day and the assassins or what, but anything Gordy did, he'd go, Gordy's a pig farmer at the time. What kind of hillbilly wears patent leather shoes? And he's screaming at Gordy, but his fucking nuts fell out, and they're on the steel chair. And Jody was a big brother, so his legs are spread anyway. So every time he yells, his sack's patting the chair. And we're fucking losing it. And he's getting madder and madder because he thinks we're not listening to the wrestling psychology. We are, but you can't help but see and hear his fucking nuts. He said, "You'll squat for the rest of the fucking day if I hear one more peep." And even DeMont's got his fist in his mouth. It was unbelievable. You had to see it.
Did Jody ever find out, or did Jody just not care?
So I think my philosophy has always been that in the back of his mind, he's ribbing the whole room, Bill included.
That's what I always wondered.
Could you not feel your nuts on a cold steel chair?
Yeah, really.
You can.
Because Heath Slater told us almost the same, where he turned around, he was in coach's shorts and his nuts fall out, and he's sitting there talking to the guys, and his nuts are just hanging out. And like, oh my, do we say anything, or is this a rib, or?
This was tape study, man, and there was a hole in the pants. I will never forget it. We only had 2 girls, and there's like 35 guys, and we're all sitting there facing him, and he's turned around with his back to the little TV where we're watching the tape, and it's just all nuts.
That is great. Did you know when you were there, when you met Dave Taylor, what a huge name he was in England, and what his resume and his all the stuff that he came from there?
So a ton of guys didn't, but like when I got into my like teenage years, I became like a complete student of it. I was obsessed. I was a fucking weirdo of a fan. So I did know about Dave, and I knew about Fit before he came to America, and Regal and all these guys. So I was really pumped when Dave was coming. A lot of the guys weren't even familiar with like his WCW work, but I knew about him all before. And my buddies and I at home that would work the indies together, the Southern Indies, would watch. We'd watch all the European guys on WCW because they were so different, and their shit looked so real. Like watching Dave or Fit Finley or William Regal get heat on one of those Saturday morning syndicated shows. To me, that was some of the best shit you could watch to learn at the time because they were doing different looking stuff. So I was really excited to meet Dave and learn from Dave. But then when I got to know Dave the person, and then, even though the age gap was large, we had similar interests. I don't think I've ever had more fun with another wrestler than my formative years. Then they sent him on the road because he was teaching us so well. They put him with Regal, and that was, the beginning of us doing Jesse and Festus. So we're going around and working with Dave and Regal every night. So not only are you learning a ton, but then, of course, Dave wants to go out drinking as soon as the show's over at the dirtiest place you can find.
Yes.
I don't know how much of that I can tell, but I had a great time with that guy all the way. All the respect in the world for him. And even here in the last year when I would see him down at NXT, I had to get away from him because we'd be laughing so hard at the most inappropriate shit that you can't say or do these days that I have to turn tail and run until we were out in the parking lot.
Yeah, he's a hilarious guy. He is so funny.
He's underratedly funny. If there was a Dave Taylor TV show, everybody would fucking watch it on HBO or Netflix.
Yes. Yeah, we tried to get him on the podcast, and he goes, "Oh, guys, I don't do podcasts." He's the guy who needs to do them because he's so freaking funny. Podcast
in wrestling, if he could just tell his stories and nobody would bleep him out or censor him. He's unreal. The things that he's seen it.
His dad was like English champion. I mean, he comes from a family of big time shooters.
He sure does. Yeah, his grandfather was a wrestler as well, if I remember.
Yeah. I think 3rd or 4th generation of amateur shooters out there from London.
He even had that was breaking.
That place is.
He brought his daughter over for a few months, and she was training with us, and she could kick most of the guys' asses, and that's.
I think she went on to win a UK national championship or some type of championship, I believe.
I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah. They were all legit. And, by talking to him, you would have had no clue. And then he would get in the ring and just, he'd work circles around all of our 20-year-old asses. So,
Yeah, he was fun to work with. I worked with him quite a few times in Europe when I was there with him. What a good, solid guy.
and he would be working on top, I'm sure, when you were there. Were you in Germany with him working in the camps and stuff? That sounded
Yeah,
like fun to me. And working in the round system and all that. I
yeah.
always thought that sounded fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Otto really loved him, because Otto loved the big, stiff, tough guys,
Yeah.
and he fit that mold completely.
Sure, he loved the two of you.
Exactly. So when you get there, what is the first thing you start when you get down there? Is it all about training? You're also working, but are you working not independent? You're working like house shows on the weekend and things.
No, that was one of the things, and Jody's gone now, so I can speak a little more openly. But Jody didn't give a shit about that. He was getting paid, and he was going to train us, and that's what he was going to do. And they were on his ass all the time. They need to be working more shows. They need to be working more shows. So we didn't work any shows for about the first, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, and then we got TV. Well, I was the greenest guy there. So at one point I got heat because, guys that people don't think about now as much, but like Mike Knox had been to Japan, he'd been to Puerto Rico, he'd been to Mexico, his partner the same way. We had some guys who'd been around who could really work. And I was super green. So that they had 2 classes when it got bigger, and I was doing the morning and the afternoon. So instead of 500 squats, 1,000 squats, all that, but
Wow.
too dumb to quit. I knew I quit college, and I knew I had to do this, and I had to be in this. So I didn't quit, and it really made me grow on Jody, and he grew to really love me. And that's so the first thing I did was I could cut these crazy promos. So I had this gimmick, and with eyeshadow, and I've never had hair, so they had me grow out the Bozo the Clown skullet that I had later doing Festus. And I went, and I knew Jake Roberts had a snake, and I thought I need a gimmick until I get to be a little bit better of a worker. So Jody goes, well, are you afraid of spiders? And I go, well, I am, but I'm not afraid to try anything to stay here. So I went and I bought this big Mexican red-legged tarantula at the pet store or whatever. And he was like, well, get used to that fucking spider. And I bought fur, and I taped it all, or I stapled it around my boots like Bruiser Brody, because I was a big Bruiser Brody fan. And I had a big schmuck, and I looked crazier than hell. And I got used to this spider, and I would talk in these different voices with the spider and cut these promos. And at the end of the match, so they did put me on TV because people ended up loving it. And at first it was like the Ultimate Warrior thing. Like, we'll hide him, he'll do squash matches. And that was why I was really, learning to work TV and stuff. But I'd beat the guy and then throw the spider on him. So then as I started to get
Could a spider work?
No, the fucker couldn't work. That was the problem. And that's what I'm getting to. So Stephanie McMahon came down, and she's going around and she's talking to guys that she thought had potential or whatever after they do the hello meeting or whatever. And she pulled me aside, and I'm thinking, like, I didn't think I'm getting pulled aside at all. And all she said to me was, you are really, really weird. And I, yes, ma'am. And she goes, just be weirder. And I go, I can do that. So then I'm like, every week we would have a promo day after practice. And I'm like, how can I got this thing crawling over my fucking head and up and down my arms. And how can I make it weirder? So
does the spider not bite?
We're getting to that, John.
John.
So he got pretty docile where he wouldn't bite you. As long as I overfed his ass crickets and water all week, he'd be pretty good. So I'm pretty comfortable with him now. I've had him for about 6 months. So I get this idea. I'm going to put him in my mouth. And I told the cameraman, I go, as soon as I put him in my mouth, start the fucking camera, start the promo. I'll open my mouth. He'll crawl out, and I'll cut the promo like I've just spewed this spider all over myself. I go, this will get me called up. I think it's fucking genius, right? What I didn't know was these tarantulas, as a defense mechanism, they have these they're like metallic hairs that shoot out of the back of their ass. So if a predator clamps down on them, they shoot these things out to swell up the throat.
Wow.
So I stuck this tarantula back into my mouth, and before I can point at him for the red light to come on, boom, he chomps down on my tongue with his fangs, and he shoots these hairs in the back of my throat. So I coughed the fucking spider on the ground. Bill's afraid of the spider anyway. He's like, get the fucking spider, cut. Everybody's scrambling, jumping on chairs. I get the spider and put him back in his little thing, but all of a sudden I realize my fucking throat's closing.
Wow.
Well, he's so mad at me for doing this. He's like, what the fuck? And I go, I can't. And he goes, get to the urgent care. So Nobody's going with me to the urgent care. They got to cut promos. So I jump in my two-door Hyundai with no AC in Atlanta, Georgia, and pull off. And by the time I get to the red light, my throat is closing. Now, grant you, I got furry boots on, a pair of wrestling trunks, and eyeshadow, and a skullet that's out like this. So I run into the urgent care like a madman, and my throat's closing. I'm going, spider. So I have to go in there and get fucking shots and get put on an antibiotic.
So you have to tell the urgent care people that you had a spider in your mouth. He out his ass. He saw a bunch of hairs in your mouth.
And I'm trying to explain that with a closing throat. I figured I was going to die on the fucking floor for my little...
I'm wrestling. Who else can make up these kind of stories, man? Nobody. You go back to West Virginia and tell your coach I didn't call you a liar and everything else. Tell you hit the door again, right?
There were 25 guys who saw it at least.
And nobody drove you to the hospital?
No, Bill was mad at it. He was mad at me. What the fuck did you do that for?
How dare you almost die?
And then I had to come back and downplay because I didn't want to look, you can't come back and complain. Can I cut my promo now? No, go.
So did they take them very long to figure out that a spider was in your mouth and shot shit out his ass into your throat?
Once I was in there, because all I could say was a spider bite, and then they asked me what kind of spider it was. And then the doctor was explaining to me what had happened to me. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense, because it felt like not only did I get bit, but something caught on fire in my throat. And I was walking around with a swollen tongue and all fucked up. But the whatever the hell they gave me worked.
How long did it take for you to get back?
Oh, that was Friday. I practiced on Monday. I mean, I'm trying to get called up and get a job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Did you have your wallet in your wrestling trunks?
No, I had nothing. But they treated me, and then I had to go home and I had to go back. And then I was scared too, because that was the Palmco days. And I was like, I wonder if I can Palmco this without getting fired for it and get the office to pay for it. I think I did self-pay, and I may still owe them on the bill, because at that time we weren't getting paid very much to be in developmental. So.
And they're not going to probably go collect one from a hairy guy with a skullet. We lost him.
Where'd he go? The spider got him fine.
The spider definitely got him.
Yeah, that's a hilarious story. I remember hearing something about that.
Really?
Yeah. With that school, they were looking for things, to get heat with, so John could close it down, because he wanted to open up one here. So any little thing that happened, man, it was everywhere.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but they had a hell of a crew down there, man. With the guys they had. So hopefully he'll come back here.
There he is back. What a crazy story to go to wrestling trunks.
Hey, sorry guys.
That's okay. We just got a call from the urgent care. So, I mean,
don't give them my address.
Or at any point are they like asking you what the fuck are you doing? Like what is?
Well, you're in your wrestling gear too, right? So
that's the thing. I got trunks on and fur boots and all that shit. So like,
you're about to die. I mean, your throat is closing. You don't know if you're going to die or not, and they tell you, oh, go to the hospital.
That was, I mean, even then, you got to think, like 20 years ago, the wrestling business and how we acted in it was a lot different than it is now, And that was an example of it. And that was, and guys were saying we were getting abused because we had to do squats. Like, nobody had a fucking spider bite their tongue and shit down the throat. I wasn't complaining about it, so I didn't understand what the problem was. But yeah, we didn't figure out that the spider was unusable after that either. We kept using them, and then what happened was I got called up to work some dark matches, and you couldn't travel with it. It was a travel issue, and then WWE didn't want to fuck with it, so they were like, "You got to figure out something else to do," and that was the end of the spider thing.
Was that the only time the spider ever took a crap in your mouth, or did it?
That was the only time it ever did. And believe it or not, like Nick Patrick was the first person, because when I would first do it, I'd hit my finish and I'd put a sheet over the guy and drop the spider. And Nick was like, it's not working. And Nick Patrick was Jody's son, and he was the first person so I hit my finish, and then it was his idea. I dropped Nick too. And then Nick let me drop it right on his face. And I mean, the crowd in there was losing their minds the first time they saw that, which so I appreciated it. But yeah,
Whatever happened to the spider?
I gave it to my girlfriend's mother's friend. She was into all these exotic pets and shit. So I gave him to her. Willow the spider. I don't know if he lived out his days or what happened to him, but good luck.
You did warn him about the crapping in the mouth, though, did you?
I didn't tell her shit about that, Jared. That's her problem.
That is tremendous.
Yeah, it was something. I brought it to TV. The only time I brought it to a Georgia TV, Dusty was producing in the promo room, and they wanted to see me talk, and he didn't know that I had it. And I had it in this little gimmick box, and I had like a purple cloth that went over it. So he just thought I was some weird kid cutting a promo. Well, then I pulled it out and did this, and it jumped right off of me onto the ground. He goes, "Spider, no!" And he jumped up on his chair. "Get the spider! Get the spider!"
Oh,
And yeah, I didn't get a good promo report from the dream. I didn't know.
I hope Dusty had clothes on at that time.
At that time, yes.
Yeah.
I just remember, "Spider, no!"
So you were part of the closing crew of Mid South too, right? When they
Yep. I was there from the day it opened till the day that
the donut day, right?
Well, you've heard about the donut incident, I'm sure.
Oh no! Tell us about donut. Never heard that one.
Yeah.
Heath Slater told us the story, but we want to hear your story too.
We would have Make a Deal Friday after the tape watching would happen. And Matt Cardona was always trying to make a deal. And one week he said we'd do 2,500 squats if we didn't have to practice. And everybody wanted to kill him because Bill made us do the 2,500 squats. It took 4 hours or whatever the hell it took. So we're like, please, no more deals like that. So somebody, I think it was Jay Bradley, came in and he brought Bill 24 donuts. And Bill goes, "If you think you're going home because you brought me 24 donuts, you're not." And then it escalated to Broski, Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona saying he would put the donuts in his mouth and take the running Rikishi ass to the face. And then the late Melissa Coates, God rest her soul, chimed in and said she would do that too. And then somehow I, the spider-eating freaking deacon, got volunteered to be the nude man.
Somehow, huh?
But, I figured it was better to be the guy giving than the guy sitting in the corner with the donuts in his mouth. So.
No kidding. Yeah. If you're going to be one of them, be you.
Yeah, I'll be the runner. So, yeah, all I had was like a Texas Longhorns hat that I put over my junk, and 20 times, wham, 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 wham. Every time they're feeding him another donut, smash. We didn't have to practice, though, so.
Got out of practice. That worked.
And you know what's so bad about that? Because I love Bill, and he's a good friend. He got blamed for all of that.
Yeah, but it was everybody else pitching these ideas.
Right. It wasn't his idea. He just was going with it. They said, "Hey, we're going to do this." Then all of a sudden, Bill is like this horrible person. There's all this bullshit and stuff.
He's been abusing everyone for years. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, Bill's a good dude. It wasn't his idea. You guys were having fun. You tell a story, you're laughing about it. Matt Cardona tells a story, he's laughing about it. Everybody's laughing about it until somebody wants to repeat it and go, "Oh, Bill made us do such horrible things."
Everybody who was offended or didn't come out of there and get what they wanted out of wrestling, it was this abuse and bullying and all that. And everybody else thinks it's funny.
Yeah. It's funny how those that don't make it come up with all these accusations.
It sure as fuck is.
Yeah. Oh, the reason I didn't make it, maybe you just suck.
Yeah, tell the truth.
Sure, I'll see you on Twitter after this comes out. Well, see, that's one of the people who supported Bill, and that's what's wrong.
That's right. Exactly. Hey, I've blocked 17,000 people on Twitter. I can block a lot more. I'm fine. I love when people say something because I just block them. Because
I do too. I love it. Block it, and I hit report too. I don't know if it does anything, but I'm reporting too.
Oh, I don't do that. I may have to go back and report all 7
reports.
John has blocked more people on Twitter than it lives in his hometown. So
that's right. Yeah.
He can say he's started a whole Texas community on people that he's blocked, man.
Somebody came up and showed Ron. We're a signing this weekend. He goes, "Man, your partner has blocked me." And Ron, of course, goes, "Hey, John, did you block him?" I said, "He must have said something stupid." And the guy just kind of looked, and I go, "You did, didn't you?"
Yeah.
Well, yeah, yeah. You're still blocked, dickhead.
Move on.
Yeah, move on. Go somewhere else.
My
Go
favorite.
over Flair's table.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Gun unblock me. Well, there's a fucking reason Machine Gun blocked you. I'm not telling them shit.
Right.
I love it. People text me and say, "Would you tell your partner JBL to please unblock me?" And I said, "Hell no,
No, because I guarantee I blocked you for a reason. I guarantee.
And if you don't watch out, I'll block you.
Hey,
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
I love when people call me and go, "Hey, would you mind talking to so and so? They've got your number. If you want to get hold of Mr. Briscoe or Ron Simmons, they've got your number. And if they ain't answering, it's because they don't want to talk to you. Don't ask me to do that." So after Deep South closed, what happens then? I mean, did you know it was closing? Was it a surprise to you?
I knew it was closing. I was privy to it because of some other stuff that I probably still can't say. But I knew that it was closing. I had to sit on it because I was the only one who knew that it was closing. But before it closed in 2006, they called me, and that was when they called me up to do the Imposter Kane deal to promote Glenn's movie. But that was only about a month, but people still ask me about it. And I think mostly just because the wig was so bad the first night they sent me out there. I looked like an 80s rocker on cocaine or something, and I came out and I took Slam Kane. And then I think I did 3 weeks and we did one pay-per-view match. And then they sent me back down. And that's when the choking on the spider incident happened. Because after that, obviously the Kane thing wasn't going to do anything, but I thought I had this gimmick that I was really going to be able to use. And they couldn't use the spiders. So they were like, think of something else. And I was like, shit, I'm getting fired before I get out of here. And at the time, Henry Godwin, who I love, I just saw him 2 weeks ago. Henry Godwin had come down, and they were going to put him with Ray Gordy in like a new Godwin kind of gimmick, like a pig farmer tag team. And they had them going up and doing some dark matches and stuff. And then something had happened. I think it was around the time, unfortunately, that Henry's son had passed away. And Henry had to leave the company. I still to this day, I don't know exactly why he left the company. I loved him. I used to go to the biker bar and sit with him and just listen to him.
Henry's one of the best people on the planet. Just a wonderful human being.
Wonderful guy.
Could bench press about 2,000 pounds. Just a strong country boy.
Still looks like he can, too. I was laughing my ass off when I saw him. He looks great. But anyway, Henry was gone, and they were bringing in all these guys to do like a redneck deal and try out to be Gordy's partner because they were still going to do this deal with Gordy. So everybody was fucking up and failing at it. And I was like, shit. So I went back to my apartment and I got a case of beer and I watched the Blue Collar Comedy Tour. And I just wrote some promos based off of that. And I called Gordy and I said, let's try this tomorrow. Maybe I can be your partner. And we went in and Dr. Tom was there. He was kind of half-ass producing them for us. He thought they were funny. He sent them up there and then I got the gig. So like as Deep South was closing, we knew we were getting called up. So if you were going to get called up, you had to go to Louisville for 6 months to OVW. If you weren't, you had to go to Florida to start Florida Championship Wrestling. So we got sent to OVW and then called up to be the Pig Farmers. And then through that, that's how I became Festus, because before the Pig Farmers ever had a match, we're in Baltimore and they're like, Vince wants to see you in his office. And it's like 6:30. And we'd called this squash match with these two locals. And I'm like, fuck, again, I'm getting fired before I get started. And I got called into Vince's office and he sat us down and he goes, I have a question for you. Can you do this? And he stuck his tongue at me. And I go,
did he really?
Yeah. And I mean, it's the first time I've ever had a one-on-one conversation with Vince McMahon. I'm shitting my pants. And I go, well, I think I can, sir. So I go, and he goes, not like that, like this. And he sticks his tongue back out at me. So, I mean, fucking 10 minutes of Vince McMahon and 22-year-old Drew Hankinson sticking their fucking tongues out at each other. And he's like, I want you to be catatonic. And then when the bell rings, you just completely lose your shit. People are going to love it. So we go through this whole thing about what Festus is going to be. And then he looks at Gordy and he goes, and you, what's your favorite color? And Ray hasn't spoken the whole fucking time. He's nervous too. And he goes, yellow? It's great. You'll be his handler. Get a yellow singlet. And that was it. So then we started doing Jesse and Festus vignettes and turned into that. But yeah, for a week we were going to be Pig Farmers. We did one backstage with Teddy Long. And then for whatever reason, I got turned into Festus. And that's how then we did a few months in OVW, and then we got to move back home, and I went back to Georgia. Ray did too, and then we were on the road from there.
And was Vince producing some of your first vignettes or anything that you did, or your
Yeah,
first
they
videos?
they flew us to Stanford, and he produced like the first month of the vignettes because he wanted to be very hands-on with it. And it was overwhelming to go from, two dipshit developmental guys to being after hours in Stanford with Vince McMahon producing the whole thing. But
Wow.
it was cool. It was really cool.
Yeah.
I just knew. I didn't know. I mean, I never heard. I just knew that was Vince. I knew. I just Festus has got Vince. Jerry, you would agree, right? Festus has Vince written all over it.
Well, I would come back, and especially when you're young, you look to like see, is it the thumbs up? Is he looking at his phone? Is he happy about it? Is he pissed off at you? And I would know that he liked it. I'd come back, and there'd be no comment about the performance, but he'd just go, oh, just a big. I'm like, well, if he's popping, we must be doing something right for now, anyways. He's laughing in your face, but at least he's laughing and not yelling at you.
Yeah. And I thought you guys were a great team. I enjoyed it. I love the gimmick you had with Ray.
We did too, and people come up to me still this day, and they go, "That must have really embarrassed you," and you must have like, "I'm sorry they treated you like that." I'm like, dude, you got to remember, I started doing that when I was 23 years old. It bought me my first house. I got to go on the road with all these great guys that a lot of them aren't in the business. Learn from them, and two, if you really think about doing Festus, it was a great way to get your feet wet on TV because all you got to do is go crazy in the beginning and then blow a comeback, and that was kind of it for the first 6 months of it anyway. So it was a great way to start out on TV and then go from there. It was like, fuck, Ray had to do all the work. He had to sell everything.
And you had a great partner, Ray Gordy, too. Ray's a really good young man.
And a very underrated worker, professional.
Very underrated, yeah.
Never got his due. Like some of the stuff he did in Pro Wrestling Noah before he came over here and we started teaming. Like Ray was a great worker, and because he kind of got saddled with the comedy gimmick, everybody just goes, "Oh, he was Jesse." But Ray was a very, very talented guy. He's still a friend of mine to this day. Don't have enough good things to say about Ray Gordy.
Had an awesome man to travel with too, right?
Oh, we were two peas in a pod. Our wives at the time didn't like our camaraderie, but I think that happens sometimes.
Maybe
And
that's why.
and his godfather always gave you guys advice, being Michael Hayes, I'm sure.
We had a lot of people in our ear, but I hope we were influenced by the right ones, I guess is the best way to say it. But we had a hell of a lot of fun together. I miss Ray to this day now. If he was still in the business, I feel like him and Carl and I would have tried to be a 3-man team somehow.
Is he still a sheriff somewhere in Alabama or Georgia?
Amazing. The first thing I said to him when he got that gig was, "How does the biggest criminal I know get into law enforcement?"
Yeah.
Yeah, he still is. He's doing really well. He's in charge of the SWAT team for a while. He's high up in the sheriff's office now, so he's doing good.
Good.
Freebird's son is a sheriff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're in a fucked up world.
Yeah.
Stuff that you seize, do you just consume it all, or how does that work?
So what happened as the gimmick played out?
So there was it was one of those deals where we weren't high enough on the card to get told of any real plans, and they had a draft and they split us, and I went, well, what the fuck does a Jesse do without a Festus, and a Festus without a Jesse? Because I had pitched to turn heel and kind of learn to talk or say that it was, that it was all this big rib that we were playing on everybody to get where we wanted to be. And Vince made a great point that that would be tricking the fans and whatever the reasoning was. It kind of made sense to me at the time, but they put him on SmackDown and they made him a rapper, which he tried his best. But then I was on Raw and I was just kind of floating in the wind on Raw because, again, I had no partner and I'm a silent character now. So there wasn't that much, I'm in the creative has nothing for you 6-man tag, that kind of stuff. And I did that for about 6 months. They told me I was going to be repackaged and they wanted to use me as a heel on Raw, but they wanted another mask character. So flew myself down to Orlando and I met up with this movie guy, and I spent like $5,000 getting this costume made and this shit that was molded to my face and all that. And I was trying that out. And actually, that's when I got to know Wes, Jerry. They sent me to FCW to try it out for 2 weeks. And Wes was there. And the first match I did, I recorded doing that gimmick. was with him, and I was just down there with those guys. And like I'd work the house shows as Festus, and then I'd work on the gimmick during the week. But at the time, I guess Vince didn't think that Punk had enough size to get heat on the Undertaker, so they wanted them to go find a heater in Florida. It's kind of like the Henry Godwin thing. There were a bunch of big gas pumps down there. That's one of your terms that I love. But it wasn't working with any of them for whatever reason. And I'm just sitting there one day with my mask in my hand after doing my thing. And you know, Taker and Punk were watching everybody work. And one of them said, well, what about Festus? We both know Festus. And then I got in there and did a match as a heel or whatever. And then that's kind of how I got picked to do the gimmick. And we scrapped the mask guy, and I came on the road as the Straight Edge Society with Punk as the heater and that thing. So that was the next thing for me.
Yeah. You know, I disagree with what Vince said a little bit. You can't disagree with Vince very much. He's been right. You know, he's built this entire world we're a part of. But they did that with Kane. You know, Kane couldn't speak, then Kane had the gimmick he put on the neck, and then Kane takes off the mask, and then all of a sudden, you know, Kane becomes a person that can do whatever he wants. So they could have done that with Festus, I think.
That was my hope, and that was kind of my little bit of reasoning in my head for it. But I didn't want to go against, you know, I didn't have the placing to go against what he was saying at the time and kind of argue it. Maybe I should have, but I didn't for whatever reason.
Yeah, and you got to pick your fights. That's not one that you know what.
Right, and they didn't can my ass right away, so I got another shot. So I went, you know, you do what you can with that, and it's weird too because I was so concentrating so hard on getting in shape to be the heater that I wish I would have stayed a little bigger, because I think when I came back I looked a little bit small to be the heater if they wanted a big guy. But I was really like, well, you don't want to walk out there and look like Festus, because I still look like an offensive lineman, you know, when I was doing live and learn. So
yeah. And that's what a lot of people make a mistake about is the training part of it. You know, I talk to young kids all the time. You got to train for your character.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I remember Arn saying that to me one day. And Arn Anderson, another guy I can't say enough good about, who's so good to me. He said, "Kid, don't lose any more weight." He goes, "That was your appeal, that you were big and you could move. You don't look like all." And that's when I really went, "Oh yeah, that's a good point." You know, because I went from 320 to 260 pretty quick, and it was like looked a little weird.
Yeah, and they had me talk to some guys down at NXT a while back, and I told them that. I said, look, all this functional training, do that for what you do in the ring. You know, I'm not talking against the functional training, but if you're a big person, train to look like a big tough guy. You know, do your heavy shrugs, do your heavy benches, your squats and stuff. Look like a big, thick person, because that's
arms and a big chest. That's another JBL term that we've stolen so much over the years. Barrel chested heel, but I believe it. You know what I mean? There's something to looking the part to be able to do that shit.
Right. And what a cool run you had with Taker, though. That's pretty cool to all of a sudden end up against Taker. That's not a bad landing spot.
That's a good gig.
That was the highlight of Festus. Like, again, I was 24, and they go, "You're going to main event against Taker next week." And I go, "I am?" And they go, "Yeah." And we had what I thought was a good, fun match, and he seemed to really enjoy it too. So that was really cool for me at the time to get to do that with him. And he didn't limit me. He wanted to go. So, you know, whatever shit I had, he let me throw it. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
What'd you ever do with your $5,000 gimmick?
Well, I think I cried to Johnny that I couldn't afford it, and he gave me half the money back.
Did he?
And then because I am a carny piece of shit, Paul Burchill needed a mask to wrestle the Hurricane on the new ECW one night. So I said, "Well, here, wear this." So he wore it on ECW, and then I sold it to a collector when I got fired.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
You know what you need to do is like Tugboat. I accuse him of selling the Shockmaster mask at the end of the original one at the end of every convention. That's what I accuse him of, at least.
Yeah.
Raffle, that's
he admits to it, though. That's the thing. He always admits to it. Yeah, you're right.
Hey, how come every time you raffle that thing off, your son wins? It's weird.
That's right. That's right. Me and Ron accused Curtis Hughes of doing the same thing. This is the original urn. I'm going to sell it. This is the only time. And he'll do that in Baltimore. He'll do that in Philly. He'll do that in Des Moines. He'll do that in Chicago. Yeah. It's the greatest thing ever. You could have sold that mask probably 50 more times.
It's not too late either. I
Oh, no,
mean,
it's not too late.
Yeah, you have the original in my closet if you're listening and you want to get hands on that thing.
That's right. Just call me. Send me some money. I'll send it to you.
DM me. They're open.
That's right. So what happened at the end of this? So at the end of this, is that when you go into TNA? What happened? Is this?
Yeah. So Straight Edge, we go into SummerSlam, and there was a backstage incident that wasn't me. And then leading into that, the finish of the match, Big Show choke slams Joey Mercury onto me, but Joey somehow tears his pec. And between the backstage thing and that was kind of the end of Straight Edge, and they wanted to move Punk to Raw. And that's when I was like, I'm 26, the writing's on the wall here. Been through 3 gimmicks. So, and there wasn't much, the writers weren't talking to me very much. And I was working main event or whatever the little B show would be before the TV or whatever. So I kind of knew that it was coming, but so many guys like getting fired, just wreck them. And you can't do that. I knew that I was young and like, I wanted to work in Japan. I wanted to work in Mexico. I wanted to work in Puerto Rico, all these things. So when I got the call, it's like, yeah, that sucks, but I got to go to work. And at that time, as long as you weren't on TV, you could go. I wrestled the next night in Georgia. And then a week later, I took off for Japan. That was when Inoki had broken away from New Japan. He had the IGF thing going over there. They were like these weird sponsor-heavy shows where they'd have mixed martial arts and wrestling and boxing and all that. And started working over there and just going everywhere. I started going to Puerto Rico for the Colognes, going to Europe. Anywhere I could go, really. I wanted to experience all of it. And you always know, ultimately, you want to get back on TV. You want to try to get back to WWE, especially at that time when I was in my 20s. But that's how I ended up. Some really weird shit that people don't do during that time. I went to Nigeria, and that's when my 5th trip over there, when I was given the book, which wasn't a promotion because nobody else fucking wanted it, and they all went home. So 3 or 4 guys in Nigeria with me. And of course, there's no money to get home, and we're all stranded and all fucked up and all this stuff. So I had to fly these guys with me back from Abuja, which was the new capital, back to Lagos on the coast, and then get us out of there and get us home. But I mean, it was a mess. I've told the story before. And I ended up with the promoter outside of the Lagos airport by the lapels of the jacket. And then there were about 6 machine guns in my face. And, that's a beg off moment. I had a kid at home, and I was like, there's no amount of money worth getting shot in Nigeria and thrown in a fucking ditch for. So I went inside and realized that they had booked our flight for 2 weeks later. So I had to beg me and all these other guys onto a flight. I got back to New York and landed in New York, and I got an unknown number on my cell phone, which I'm supposed to be in Atlanta, by the way. The only way to get us out was to get us on this flight to JFK. And it sounds like a made up story, only in pro wrestling. So I answer the phone of this unknown number. And this guy goes, "This is so-and-so from the United States State Department. We recommend you never return to Nigeria. You're now on a list of people to kill." I went, well, I guess I won't take any more Nigeria bookings. Wow. So that was a weird one. And then I ended up promoting.
So wait a minute. You can't just gloss over that.
Yeah. We got to hear that.
We got to hear more about that.
The great Power Udi of Nigeria. And I knew who he was when they first reached out because I read the first Mick Foley book. And Mick Foley had a similar story about being treated bad in Nigeria. But I figured by now the guy was okay.
Well, you think he turned over a new leaf?
I mean, in my head, yeah. I go, well, this will be
all right.
There was an old WWF guy who you guys might be vaguely familiar with. His name was Mr. Haiti. And he was the American liaison at the time. He lived in New York. He was a Haitian brother. And he was the one who started taking us over. And Power Udi wanted me to be Super Festus. Because what we ended up finding out, they had a line to a newspaper over there called The Punch. They'd put everything in the newspaper. They'd do these bullshit press conferences. But what I found out after it was all over was they would treat it like it was a shoot, and this general would go around, and they would try to get guys who had been something like in the States and WWE and say, look, the Nigerian champion beat this American champion. So they're like showing, the military is showing clips of like me getting heat on Undertaker and saying I'm this American champion. They need financial support for the great Power Udi to fight me and win for the good of Nigeria. So it was basically an extortion ring around professional wrestling by telling these people that it was a fucking shoot, which is hilarious in its own right. But one of the first nights in there, they came up to me and they go, "Do you like to drink beer?" And I go, "Yeah. I mean, we're not supposed to leave the hotel, but yeah, I like drinking beer." And they go, "You like field parties? And I go, yeah, I like field parties. So they go, all right. So they take me to this field party, and these guys are all sitting around, they're drinking beer and smoking whatever they're smoking, and they're smoking a bunch of meat. And they come over and they go, would you like to try African bush meat? And you don't want to say no, you're in a foreign country. They go, it's very, very spicy, so make sure you have a beer. So I got a beer and I got my kebab of African bush meat. It's the hottest thing ever. So it takes you 2 or 3 beers to get the thing down. And I finish it and I swallow it. It's awful, but I don't want to be rude. And I look at the guy and he goes, bush meat in America, you call rat. Like, these fucking guys fed me a smoked rat as soon as I got off the plane.
So they got rats over there too.
Not the kind of smoked rats we're used to, right?
Yeah.
So how long were you in Nigeria?
How was it?
It was awful. It was spiced shit.
How long were you in Nigeria?
I went 5.
So you've been you've been shit on by spotted or so. Now you're eating
You're
eating a rat. So wow, what a career!
Yeah. You thought this was going to be about highlights. It's not.
They're highlights to us.
I went 5 times. The 4th time, it really started getting weird. He didn't have all the money, but then they immediately wired it to me. And then that 5th time was my 2nd time by myself without the good Mr. Haiti, who had smartened up and just fucking left me to handle it. And I was dumb to go back. Yeah, that's a lesson learned. And the story's weird in its detail, but because we always wrestled in Lagos, but there was this new capital and they're in a fucking civil war. So when they flew me to Abuja, that's across the country, and it's me and him, and it's a 3,000 seat arena with not one person in it. There's just a camera set up and this general watching us. And I mean, you want to talk about some of the worst pro wrestling in the world. I know the flight's in an hour and a half, and the only thing they tell me is they need me to bleed a lot, which I don't know if you would think about it or not. But Nigeria is not a place to have a lot of open wounds, so I'm just, get me the fuck out of here. I wrestled in a Jack Daniels t-shirt and went straight back to the plane with the same one on. And that's when we got there, and he had no tickets for us to get back. Wow. So the guy with me was one of my buddies from Georgia who was an independent guy. And I was like, just go with me because this is shady as fuck. So I ended up buying him and I a ticket from Abuja back to Lagos. And we got on the flight, and the Power Udi guy, who was the promoter, was in first class. And that's when I was like, this motherfucker, as soon as we land, we got to whoop his ass and get our money. So we're like planning that the whole way back. And he goes running out of the airport, and that's where the thing, it did happen. I grabbed him, and I go, what the? And also Domino from Deuce and Domino was with us. They kept him in the hotel. And while this was all going on, while I have this incident, the guns in my face and all that, we're like, we can't leave him. How the fuck do we get back? He comes running up. He goes, they fucked us. There's no money. And I go, obviously there's no money. We got to get the fuck out of here. I go, well, what happened? He goes, they weren't letting me leave because Power Udi never paid our food bill for the whole week. So all of our like catering, which looked like little pieces of quail and yellow rice that we ate for every meal, they hadn't paid for any of it. And I guess Power Udi sent one of his assistants with an old piece of shit car, and he tried to use the car to trade it out for the hotel bill. So in the midst of all that, Domino was able to get himself into a taxi cab and get back to the Lagos airport. And then, the 3 of us, him and I, and my buddy Mike Taylor, who was a Deep South guy who passed away, God rest his soul as well, were able to get on a plane and get the hell back to the States anyway. So,
how did Power Udi get hold of you guys? Who was this guy?
So the Mr. Haiti guy lived in New York, and there was an independent promoter who I worked for when I first started out in New York named Gino Caruso. He still runs out of Lake Hiawatha, New Jersey. And he had it set up where the guys would come in there and they would look at him and bring him in. But Mr. Haiti got my email somehow, and he emailed me that they wanted to use me in Africa. And I was like, well, shit, haven't done Africa yet. Let's go. And should have done a little more research. Maybe I should have called Mick instead of just reading that book that came out years before.
Had they run any wrestling there before? Where were the wrestlers from?
So, like, if you look at the history of it, it's really strange. I was like the last known American to go, but I mean, Bob Orton went over there and worked. Cactus Jack, of course. They had a lot of people. Like, he was always asking how to get the Undertaker. I'm like, yeah, the Undertaker wants to come to this shit.
Yeah, but he'll come.
it ran from like the 70s up through, I mean, this was 2011 when all this shit happened. But yeah, that somebody told me the other day that they heard from him, but he had gone to prison for the murder of his wife. But Nigeria is one of the most corrupt countries in the world, so I heard he got out and off for that. So I don't know, but
So then, who put the hit on you?
that I don't know. But we came home and I was burying them and emailing everybody I knew. So there were like, little wrestling headlines about how we had been stranded over there by the Great Power Hootie. And then after they said that the hit was on me, then he was emailing me like, I'm so sorry. If I send the money, can you resend your negative comments so that Nigerian wrestling can live on? I'm like, there was no Nigerian wrestling. It's like a fucking 24-foot boxing ring made of cement.
Oh, wow.
Cutting my head off. You're the worst worker I've ever touched. That was the other thing, too. When we did the first 4 times they would have shows, and the Nigerians weren't smartened up. They just get in there and start trying to fucking shoot suplex each other. It was the worst shit you've ever seen in your life. So the only good stuff that would happen was I'd bring some of the American indie guys and they could at least attempt to work a match in these conditions and it would look like professional wrestling anyway. But it was brutal.
But apparently, it elevated high enough where the State Department felt compelled to call you.
Well, see, it was in the newspaper all the time over there too. But the girl I was talking to in the States at the time, she was trying to blow the whistle on it. Like, these guys are stuck, they're fucked. Like, we'd already stayed a week later than we were supposed to. But my only communication, because I don't know if it was because of the time or what was going on, but all I could do was Facebook from my room with my laptop plugged into the internet in the wall. And that was the only way we could talk to anybody and go like, hey, this is why I'm not home. I don't know what the fuck's going on over here. It is weird, but we're not scared yet. And then it got weird at the end, obviously. So
Okay.
Now, did you have any money to spend for food or anything?
they provided food in the hotel. So there was food in the hotel, and then it was like you weren't. They told us not to leave, but we're wrestlers, so of course we would leave. But you walk out, and it was like the slums. There was a little market. We went and got traditional African daishikis handmade, so we could wear those around. We went to an expat bar a couple of times. So yeah, I that's the other thing. It wasn't a the FAA's not there or whatever. So you land and there's no TSA or anything. There's just a dude with a machine gun. Like my first time, he just patted me down, and then they were like, "Hey, hide your cash because they're just going to take it." So we just hide a little bit of cash, like in our gear bags or whatever. Transfer some money when we got there, just for beers and whatever else might take place. So, but that was about it. But I ended up buying the flights back to JFK on my credit card for me and my 2 guys, just to get us the fuck out of there. So, and of course, I was never reimbursed for that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tremendous. It's so fun being on Independence, isn't it?
Oh my God, dude. And this sounds like the people who are listening are going to say Gallows is the most full of shit man in the world. But through this, Mr. Haiti knew a contact in South America. So they were like, hey, this concert promoter, I know Nigeria didn't work out, but do you want to come down there and bring some wrestlers for a show? So I'm like, fuck, I don't know, man. They're like, no, it's South America. It's okay. It ends up being Jonestown, by the way, if we know the history there. But so I talked to this concert promoter, and I involved the guy a West Coast guy that I knew named Rick Bassman, who you guys may or may not know. He's been around forever. Because I didn't know how to handle work visas, passports, all that stuff. But the long story short on this one was they put us up in a resort. We had 2 shows. And I mean, I called it the ex-WWF tour. Everybody who'd been released, a bunch of good TNA people. And then Goldberg was the man. He did the favor. He came down there. We brought his wife with him. He came down gave us a great deal. All he wanted to do was go visit some children and some hospitals and stuff. And those were great shows. There were like 3,000 people the 2 nights we were down there. I made a lot of money on it. And I thought, man, I can do these things quarterly. We set it up to do these quarterly. I was the promoter, so I had the penthouse suite in this resort. I was like, shit, this is living large. And anything you can think of that you may want. We had a hell of a cast. We had Butterbean down there with us. You would have loved it. They had a midget comedian who would come out in every match. There's all kinds of
John, there's a spot for you. There's a spot for you.
That's right. I got a trash can.
I thought this was a great gig, right? So I sold the ring to him and left it there. We're going to come back 3 months later. We all hugged, got on the plane.
So you owned you owned the ring?
Yeah. So I sent this journeyman wrestler from back in the Smoky Mountain WCW days named Paul Lee. I paid him to put a ring on a box truck. He drove it to the port of Miami. Then they took it on a ship down to South America.
Wow.
So then I sold it to the promoter down there for. I got the ring cheap. It was an old WCW ring that I think Hardbody Harrison had stolen before he went to prison. So we refurbished that and sent that down there. But I got home and I was all geeked up about it. And I go, I finally got one of these foreign gigs that are good. So I called down there like, during the work week, gave him a few days for it all to settle. And I got the secretary on the phone. And I said, hey, I want to talk to him about setting up these dates for this next show. And she goes, oh, you didn't hear Mr. Luke? And I go, no. And she goes, after you guys left, he got shot in the head. And I went, you can't make this shit. And that's what I was like, I'm going to have to get a job again.
Of all the bad luck, what happened? Was it a robbery or something?
She never told me. That's all I ever heard about it. I couldn't find out. And and then I was like, you know what? Maybe we stay out of the third world for a little bit, bud.
Yeah, for a while, yeah.
People don't understand that have never been there, and all three of us have. When you go to we go to some craziest places that people are running wrestling, and some of it can just be beyond shady.
And you go, why the fuck do they have wrestling here? How did it get here?
Right. That's right.
Yeah, those are my two great. I mean, thankfully, the two craziest stories. I don't know if you keep living if you do too many more of those, but yeah, that was a hell of a time when I was out in the wild the first time, and then once that all slowed down, I did like one tour for Pro Wrestling Noah, and I went down and I worked a dark match at TNA, and then they called me and gave me a job down there, and that's when I went into the Aces and Eights deal, and got to be buddies with Wes and all those guys.
Well, I talked to Wes earlier, told him you were coming on trying to get some good stories. His favorite story with you, and I'm sure you'll know, is when you killed who was Strong, Rod. It was a Strong with the rubber hammer.
Oh, Sting?
Who was it? You had James Storm with the rubber hammer.
Oh my God, yeah, that. Hit him with the wrong hammer.
Really?
What happened? Tell us. Wes told me it's the greatest story in the world.
Oh, well, let me think of the best way to tell this where nobody gets too offended by it. There were two gimmick hammers, we'll say. House show gimmick hammer, and then there was a TV gimmick hammer. He ended up getting hit with the wrong hammer, and he was none too pleased about it. And I do think it was D'Lo Brown's fault, though, because
I'm sure it was D'Lo.
D'Lo threw me the hammer, and I was in the ring. So,
wow, that'll wake you up.
Yeah. The other, I mean, I'll tell you who was a trooper though with that TV hammer was they had us do a deal where, I mean, Sting, I mean, he let me beat the piss out of him with this rubber mallet, and you had to do it because they were shooting it tight. And I mean, I was like, boy, Sting's gonna whoop my ass on this pay-per-view for that.
You guys really got that gimmick over at a time when a lot of things was hard to get over. That Aces and Eights really had some legs to me. I thought it was a good gimmick.
Yeah, man, I really feel like if things were different in the office at the time, and business was different for TNA at the time because they were going through all the tumultuous stuff that you read about and kind of on a decline period, like as soon as that thing was ending, I think we could have done better with it. And I enjoyed that. I was only there for 1 year. I signed a 1-year deal with a 1-year extension, with the deal being that I got a raise. And they had told me they were really happy with me. And I'm not going to speak ill of the dead, but Bob Ryder called me and goes, hey, they like you. They got an idea for you to do some single stuff. I like the idea. Hulk and Eric talked to me about it. It sounded really good. The boys would still be kind of in it too. And he goes, but we're not giving you the raise. And I was like, can't do that, because the first time you do that, then it's going to continue to happen to you. So it was like a rock and a hard place. So we had 2 or 3 calls back and forth. And I said, well, if you guys can't do the raise, then I can't do it. And he goes, well, then we're releasing you. And that's what pissed me off about it, was then he put it out there on the internet that I got released. I'm like, why don't you put out there that you didn't give me my raise?
Right.
I had to leave. But if I didn't leave, I never would have got to New Japan a couple months later, and I never would have been in the Bullet Club, and probably wouldn't have been around here to talk on the, Zoom with you guys today. So I'm thankful that it all played out the way that it did.
And it's such bullshit. And that's the oldest promoter trick in the book. Hey, we're going to give you a push.
Giving you a push. Yeah.
We're going to give you a push. Can I have more money? I got a family to support. We'll give you a title.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
fuck you.
that the rider must have used that for everybody because Wes had the same story. I remember, you signed a year deal,
Yep.
and then we'll sign you. Then we want you back. We'll give you a little bump at the end of it. And they came offered him a deal, and they said the same thing. Where's my bump? Well, there's nothing for you. Then all of a sudden, it never booked again.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I mean, even Eric Bischoff, I got to give him props because he called me and he goes, "I just want you to know that I had ideas for you, and they were good ideas, and I don't control the money. I'm sorry that happened to you." So I've always really appreciated him. He didn't have to say that to me,
No,
I
that's nice. Eric. I like Eric. Eric's a stand-up guy, in my opinion.
stand-up guy. He's not a bullshitter. So I've always
Yeah. It's such horseshit though. These promoters think they're so much smarter than everybody else, and they're such assholes.
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna give you a push. Well, I need more money. My rent's gone up.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll give you a main event push.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm interested in money.
Wes can tell you that too, and I'm not burying TNA. It was a completely different regime. I think they're doing great now, but back then too, like man, I didn't get paid for 6 weeks one time, and it wasn't like I was making a hell of a lot. And I remember
Right.
I called down there. I got the number for the lady in the financial office, and she goes, "Well, it's not us. It's a problem with the mail." And I said to her on the phone, "I go, are you telling me the fucking Pony Express died out in Texas, and that's why I haven't got a check in 6 weeks?
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about?"
Yeah.
Goes, well, that's what's going on. And I go, okay. Then I called up Al Snow. I go, I don't know what to do. I've been paid in 6 weeks. He goes, well, I don't know what the fuck you're telling me for. I haven't either.
What kind of waterhead moron would blame the mail?
Yeah.
It's like the shutdown on the East Coast, like when TSA. Oh, sorry, all the airports shut down. The mail doesn't just shut down randomly.
all my bills still showed up.
Yeah, everything else that's
Yeah.
been sent to me showed up.
Yeah.
I hate people.
Great, good stories though.
But you said you're right. You got lucky out of it because they didn't give you a raise.
Yeah,
You end up with Carl, and you guys become this incredible team.
yeah.
That had to be really cool. When he first got with Carl, did it feel kind of like an old glove? Like when he first got out there, you felt this is what I need to be doing?
It was funny. MVP called me. Well, I hadn't done a lot of this yet, but I had to send Carl the "Hey brother" message. I'm like, shit, I've been everywhere. And Carano called me because there might be something for you, there might not. And I was like, well, you can't sit and wait on that. So I just said, hey, is there anything with New Japan? I'm not trying to be that guy, whatever. And the funny thing, I don't know if he told you guys this or not, but he was in line for a big singles push. So when he found out they liked me and were bringing me, he goes, great. And then they go, yeah, you'll be a team. And he goes, fuck him. Why? But yeah, it did. MVP called me before I went over and he goes, man, you might not know Carl Anderson, but you guys are going to have that stepbrothers moment that we just become best friends. And I mean, we did. The first night in, we were in Corkin Hall, and we had a really good match. We went over. We're like on a high. We're walking back to the Tokyo Dome Hotel, and he goes, "Hey, you like to eat Mexican food?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Do you like to drink beer?" And I go, "Yeah."
Yeah.
He goes, "You want to go with me and my sponsor to a Mexican restaurant and drink beer?" And I go, "Yeah." And about 3 hours later, we had that stepbrothers moment. Did we just become best friends? Yeah, and we've been together ever since, and we're tag team partners and business partners, and we know each other's kids. And yeah, he's been a blessing.
What a run, though. We were talking with Carl when he was on here, and it's just incredible what you guys did. The Bullet Club, those shirts, I don't know how many millions of shirts, dollars worth of shirts you guys sold, but it was unbelievable how big Bullet Club had got and still is to this day.
It still is, yeah.
It's funny because we were, when it got hot, we knew that we were hot in Japan. And that's when, you're doing 30, 35 weeks a year. So we're out of touch with what's going on here, and there were two things that made us really know. The first one was they were going to put it on Pro Wrestling Tees so it'd be available in the States for the first time. And they sold like 8,000 shirts in the first hour and the website crashed. And then shortly thereafter, we all went to the dojo because we had the day off. So we went over there to lift weights and eat. And I think it was Finn Balor. Ferg had WrestleMania on his laptop. And that was the first time like we were watching you guys do WrestleMania, but we could see we're like, holy shit, look at all those Bullet Club shirts. And
Wow, yeah.
that's when we were like, that's something because we're a Japanese faction. And to see all those shirts on something like WrestleMania was like what really that's when it really kicked for us. Like shit, we're onto something here. And it went up from there, thankfully.
There was the Austin shirt and there was the Rock Breggett shirt, and then there were Bullet Club shirts. I remember going to a convention up in Chicago, and I never seen so many Bullet Club shirts in all my life as I saw. That man, oh man, good for those guys there.
Yeah, yeah, it was that was that was the first time that I felt like really over was when that thing got hot. Like because I'd been bouncing around for years at that point, but getting with those guys, I felt like home. And like you know how it is when you guys don't I don't think travel like this unless they are in Japan now. But when you're with people all the time for weeks and weeks at a time, and you eat together and you train together and you wrestle together and you go out drinking together and you do everything together, like we were like real brothers. You know what I mean? We were very, very close. We called it the Core Four. It was Tamatonga, Bad Luck Fale, Carl Anderson, and myself. We did every single tour, even the juniors tours, whatever. We were always there working tags or working 8-mans or whatever. And then, going out and finding trouble at night and everything else. So I love those guys.
Yeah, and the Japanese tours are different from, say touring 28 days here in the United States. Because you guys are staying in the same hotel, you guys aren't able to go home.
No.
So when you go out to eat, when you go to the gym, you're all going together. It's everything is done together. And you're bound together both by language, but also by how you have to get around. So when you go to the arena, you have to be together. When you come back from the arena, you have to be together. When you go anywhere, you have to be together. It's pretty much a forced brotherhood, which can end up very good or very bad. I've seen both.
Yeah. There's definitely ups and downs to it. I don't know how good it was for my health, but it was a hell of a lot of
fun. That's right. Yeah, your liver is now 1,800 pounds.
We used to make this joke that we'd go home from Japan to hook up with our wives, and we'd have to put on tank tops and say, "Look at my shoulders," so they didn't see our big beer bellies.
That's right. That's right. It's like the worst, especially back when guys were tanning all the time and not just using spray tan because you'd be older. You never tanned. Yeah. You wouldn't lift, but you'd be drinking every night. So you'd be like these huge like powerlifted guys walking around.
Use my tour body, honey.
That's right. Spent the 6-week tours. Oh. Japan was great though. The 4 islands of Japan. I mean, it's so cool to go like down to Kumamoto up to Hokkaido and all the different places. I mean, it's just Japan's a really unique, fun place.
It's a special place. And then, when you're there all the time, you find stuff that you love. Like we'd go to Hokkaido only like twice a year, but Hokkaido is northern Japan, and we all loved seafood. And we found out that's where they would catch those gigantic hairy crabs. So we'd have nothing to cheer for the whole tour. Like, we're going to Hokkaido at the end, man. And that was what would get you through, was just going to the all-you-can-eat crab buffet, which doesn't sound that exhilarating, but it was when you were on tour for 45 days or whatever.
Yeah.
I was in an earthquake in Okada one time. It's the scariest thing. I've been out drinking with Funk and Don.
You sure it was an earthquake?
That was the earthquake, yeah. And so we went back to the hotel room. I was in my hotel, and I was drunk on sake, of course. All of a sudden, I look up, and the chandeliers are moving. I think Funk is on my floor, pushing my bed around. I'm hollering, Terry, yeah, so get up. And I looked, there's no Terry Funk. And about the time my phone starts ringing, it's a Japanese screaming, get out. So we all had to run out of our hotel. And Terry was in the room right next to me. I thought she was removing my bed. And it was Terry, man. What an experience. And I was there. I was also during that ice sculpture event there that they had, where Hokkaido's famous for ice sculpture.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy. That the earthquake story is funny. The first time, that reminds me so much of it. They, now the buildings are supposedly they're reinforced or whatever. But one of my first tours, I'm laying in bed and the same thing. And I go, holy shit. And I get up out of my bed and I run down in my underwear. I run down the hall and I beat on Carl's door. I go, the hotel's shaking. There's an earthquake. We got to get the fuck out of here. He goes, go back to bed. It happens here all the time. I go, how do you go to bed? There's pictures on the wall.
Yeah, I was on the 23rd floor in Tokyo one time in an earthquake. And I'm just like, you know what? There's no sense moving. I'm either going to be fine and have a great story, or I'm dead.
What am I going to do? Get in the elevator and hope for the best?
There's nothing I can do up here on the 23rd floor. I got a long way to fall if shit's going down.
And I damn sure ain't running down 23.
No, I ain't gonna. I will die if I try to run down 23 floors. Yeah, I'm going down like a man. I'm going down in bed, trying to find American ESPN. That's right.
That's good shit.
So the run with Carl, you that was that to this. I guess the reason I asked this because I had to run with Ron, and I always thought that was one of the coolest things. Was that the coolest thing you did in your career?
Yeah, and I mean the thing about it too is of the stuff I did before that. You know, I've been working 23 years now. Well, I've been with Carl almost 13 of them. You know,
Wow.
so like it's second nature. I've been with him longer than I've been with this wife. You know, so yeah, I don't know what it would be like to go work without him now. You know, once in a while we'll do like a singles one-off appearance or something. I call him and go, "What are you doing? I miss you."
Yeah, when people call me to like do autograph appearances or something, and they'll say, "Hey, what should you come in here?" and say, I don't know.
You want to bring Ron?
They'll say Ron's there, and I go, "All right, all right, good to me."
Yeah, and it's weird because we've gotten such good chemistry together, and like, you know, we learned a lot together over the years about life and wrestling and all that stuff. Like we learned how to invest together, we learned how to have outside businesses together. We did all that together. Just, I mean, two, you know, shoot best friends, I guess. But that's him and I for sure.
And the run, I don't even know how to ask this. The run in AEW, and not that I'm just, I don't know. It's just some guys go there and just get paid and don't be used. I don't understand it. And no, hey, listen, I've been paid not used before. I'm not a hater.
We did. So that's still one of these things where people ask about it. That was pandemic wrestling was nuts. Like as soon as we got we went in 16, we came back to WWE together. We get let go in 19, 11 days after the Undertaker WrestleMania match that we were in, we got let go. Which what the fuck? So we, of course, we're going.
Wait a minute, you got let go 11 days after that match that you guys were in?
11 days.
Wow.
11 days.
Wow.
Yeah. So that we'll talk about that someday. But anyhow, we get let go, and
yeah, I got some stuff I'll tell you someday too. That you, yeah, we're on the same page on this.
Yeah. So
It's not the same person, by the way.
Oh, okay. Scott Demore, he called and he said, "We want you guys to come to TNA." And I was literally sitting in my truck with Carl, and I go, "He doesn't have any money." And then he said the number, and we were like, "Wow, really? Okay. Well, let us think about that." And then we thought about it, and we negotiated a little bit. And I got to give it to him. He gave us a great deal because I didn't know Impact had money like that at the time. So we were real happy about it. And then the Bucks and Kenny Omega are at OVW, and we've remained friends with them from the Japanese run. We were good buddies with them, but we did not go to AEW when they asked us to come when they started. So we had a little heat with the office over there over that, which is understandable. We ended up, you know, re-signing with WWE or whatever. So then it came up during the pandemic. We weren't under a deal there. It was we got Kenny to work for Impact, and we would go and work for AEW. So we never signed a contract over there. We just kind of would pop in and out, and we didn't really know anything about it. But we knew there were some guys there that we really liked, and just kind of go with the flow. What was good about it was they had a hot TV at that time. So like we would work for Impact. We'd go do AEW during the week, and then everybody wanted you on the weekends if you wanted to sign or work an independent show or whatever. We were a hot ticket item for that. So I mean that year of that, I mean, we made the same money that we made in WWE, and we had good WWE deals, especially for a tag team at the time. And then even into the second year, and then Scott had offered us a raise to stay in 22, and then we wanted to take a break and go back to Japan. We went back to Japan and worked a couple of shots over there, and then we knew we were going to end up going back to WWE because we'd already talked to Hunter and stuff. So yeah, it was just an interesting time. Pandemic wrestling was wild, man. That's when another harebrained idea I had was they fired us and we were pissed off. So I said, let's make a fucking parody pay-per-view in my backyard. We'll fly all these guys down who are doing nothing because it's the pandemic, and we'll shoot this shit. So we sat up and wrote it. And then I go, well, how do we do it? But it's the pandemic, so there's nothing going on. So I just started cold calling the pay-per-view companies, and they go, yeah, okay. We put it on Fight TV, but then we had it on regular traditional pay-per-view as well. And it ended up, we did 15,000 buys on the first one, which shocked everybody. And then Fight TV, which turned into Triller, now they wanted a second one, so we did another one. So that was really cool too, because I don't think wrestlers had thought of doing shit like that at that time. And we pulled it off. So I was pretty proud of it, actually. It was ridiculous, but
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That is cool. And the reason I say that is a lot of guys, when they leave a company, they just wait for somebody else to come take care of them.
And you can't do that. You cannot do that. And I also knew, I go, this is going to get us heat because we're blatantly making fun of all the shit they're doing on TV right now. But fuck it, they fired us. Like
That's right.
I got so sick of the gratitude era. Hey, you're fired, and then the first thing you do is tweet, "I'd like to thank you." Fucking fuck you. You fired me. You know, let's talk shit. Let's get some feathers ruffled, and it did, and that's why. We came back in 22. We had that initial when you come into WWE and they use you for a couple months, and then he was like, "Boy, I can feel how much heat we got," and I was like, "Yep, me too." And that's how the last couple of years there went. And that, hey, we made our bet in a way, and then we collected the check, so it is what it is.
Yeah, but I agree with you. Too many people
Yeah,
are just
totally.
they want to be liked by everybody.
Not what this is.
Fuck that. Get over.
Yeah.
Get over. You don't have to be liked.
That's why I thought the joke was so funny. I go, the guys in the Attitude Era were cool. Our Gratitude Era guys, not so fucking much.
I've never heard Gratitude Era. That's the first time.
I love that, though. I love
it. Thank you. What the fuck?
I'm going to use that forever. That explains everything.
Well, I've stolen so many of your terms. Please take that.
That's okay. That's perfectly fine. So, tell me what all your guys are doing now. You mentioned earlier, you Maple Leaf Wrestling, and Scott DeBoer. Apparently, from what I've seen, he's got a pretty good gig up there, right?
I was shocked, and I shouldn't be because I've seen him do stuff before. The production is unbelievable. So I'll not be surprised by anything that they end up doing and what comes out of that. That's been great. We got our deal where you came down for me in Georgia.
It was awesome, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, you treated me fantastic, but the whole show was awesome, well run, everything. I go to so many independent shows, and they're run terribly. There's no discipline within the show, and that makes a difference in the fans' appreciation of the night. Because when you just have the first match, you can do anything you want. You run a really tight ship down there, and it's a really good show.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And now we're learning as we go because like we just shot our first set of TV tapings. Our buddy Matt Hardy came down. He was great with us. And learning how to do that.
I'm gonna jump in. I love what you said about Matt Hardy. Hey Matt, would you go out to him? I mean, he was willing to go out and do autographs and all that stuff. And after the show, and after all, that's a professor. That's the reason Matt Hardy, man.
Yeah.
That's the reason why there's still such a big line everywhere you go to see those guys. I mean, because they're great at what they do and the fans appreciate them and they know how hard they work. Matt Hardy didn't have to come to Dublin, Georgia on a Saturday night, go on last, take a bump through a table, wrestle for 20 minutes, do false finishes in and out of the ring after coming off of however many days and doing a TNA loop. But he did it. And that's why exactly what you said. That's why those guys were so great. And I appreciated having them. But we start on Roku the first week of August. Really excited about that. And then we got another deal that I haven't signed yet, so I probably shouldn't put the precursor out there that we're working on. Carl and I are excited about that. As always, we're together on it. STGN 49 will be the channel on Roku. We're doing that and working on, another thing overseas that I'm really pumped about that if it comes through, I'll probably be bothering you about.
In Nigeria?
No, this isn't Nigeria.
Oh.
I got to wait till Power Rudy dies to go back, I think. But we're going everywhere, man. The schedule's really full, and I'm happy for all of it. We just did Fourth Rope in Paris, like we were talking about before we came on the air here. Those guys got a really cool thing that I think Sky could be the limit on that too, because it's just so different. And it's a cool crossover, as we see all across wrestling right now. I think there's a crossover in entertainment. And these are some guys who don't give a shit what anybody else tells them to do, and they do it their own way. And there's something to be said for that. I think that, all guys who have gotten over to some degree have some rebel in them, and it feels like these guys, they obviously know that. They know their culture, so it was cool to be a part of it. I'm looking forward to doing a lot more with them, and we got a bunch of dates lined up in different places we're going. I want to see them invade everywhere. I said, let's take this thing all over the world. I think
West Side Gun, those guys are some of the most respected. They're huge stars,
but they're massive fans of what we do, which was really
incredibly respectful. I mean, just they treat you like $1 million freaking dollars, and they're huge stars, and they treat you like one.
Exactly, and that you said it perfectly. I was so I was blown away by that and appreciative of it. 2 times MVP told me that I would love something I did. Carl Anderson and Fourth Rope Wrestling. So.
Yeah, I've seen MVP there. It's just fun dealing with those guys. I mean, and of course, they're obviously very, very smart guys.
they're very smart, and if you buy into that, they're just the whole thing's a party. Yes, it is, but it's a well designed party. It's put together, and not one person left that building that didn't have a huge smile on their face at the end of that night. We came out and did a massive heel turn, and they were still happy. It was awesome.
So I've never seen the business like this ever. I mean, I've never seen it so as hot as this, and especially with WWE not running live events. We have so many markets that are open. WWE going to streaming. You have terrestrial television that needs live content. I just never seen a better time for a lot of wrestling. Uh, what do you think pans out in this landscape right now? I mean, is it just WWE, and I think you're going to have three or four different global companies that are out there that are smaller that people are going to make a lot of money from? You think it's at a peak? What do you think?
I just see exactly what you said. There's so much open space right now, and there's such a big market. And John, you travel all the time too, as we do, and it's like I'm here talking about this Roku deal. Great, whatever. We'll see if that pans out or not. But I worked in Independent in Mississippi, and he goes, "We just got a deal on Peachtree TV. We're going to be in this many states." I work for this other guy, and they just got this deal. All this stuff's coming together, and all these places. Everybody is so hungry for content, and there's all these streaming services. It all can't take off, but something else will take off. And then these foreign markets are going to grow as well. And I mean, WWE's smart. We know that. We know why they're the leader. Like, they figured out, instead of putting a developmental on every continent, what's hot? Let me buy into that and have a portion of it.
That's right.
But it doesn't mean that the guy who's number two, or the upcoming guy over here, the guy that maybe they don't want to be in bed with, isn't boiling too. And that's what's so great about it. If you're not in AAA, you can be in CMLL. You know what I mean? And all over the world, it feels like it's boiling right now. And I said this a couple years ago, and I was wrong because it got better. I said it's a great time to be a fan, but it's also a great time to be a wrestler, because if you can go out and figure out how to get yourself over, you are not going to be hungry for work, and you're not working for peanuts either. So there's a massive opportunity out there. So I don't know where it goes, but I'm anxious to see where it goes. I think that there's a hell of a lot left for all of us to do, and it'll be really cool to see which one hits big, because I think there's several that have the opportunity to.
And there's never been a better opportunity for more things.
Right.
If you want to put a big show together, if you want to put a pay-per-view together, if you want to do something out of the ordinary, you can do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's people calling you and going, "Hey, can you put together this?" Well, like, what's the budget on that? Oh, hold on. This isn't bullshit, because of how many millions of times have we heard, "Oh, we got this money mark over here and he's going to do this." Well, these are real companies now that are presenting this stuff. It's not.
That's right. That's the difference. Back in the day, it'd be, "Oh, I got some guys got some money mark." Well,
this indie guy knows somebody at his dad's boatyard and all that bullshit. But there are real companies behind this stuff. And when you sit and you listen to people like the Fourth Row guys and what they're tied into and who wants to be involved in wrestling now that never did before, it's impressive. It's exciting.
Yeah, it is. Well, Luke, hey, thank you very much for coming on and joining us. We've been looking forward to having you come on. I know you just got back from France and all touring everywhere, and you're on vacation right now. So,
all right, I've enjoyed it. Like I said, respect to all the podcasts out there, but a lot of times you go, but you guys, I said, hell yeah, tell me when. So,
thank you.
Yeah,
thank you very much, Luke.
I got to thank you both. I'll say it publicly. Both of you were influential in my career. Both very helpful. I've always had a ton of respect for both of you. So it's been a real pleasure talking to you.
Well, thank you. The feeling is more than mutual.
Yes, sir.